But getting a little bit more grounded in this idea is the fact, let's get back into a little bit of technique and maybe why don't feel like you have your full singing voice online, maybe even at home. Maybe for you and for many singers I've worked with, it's not even out in front of an audience yet. If they were in front of an audience, their voice would disappear completely. Even at home, they are having a hard time having their full singing voice come online. Well, one of the things that I want to talk about is the connection of the diaphragm with our expression. The diaphragm is a big part of what a singer needs to really have their voice be as powerful as they would like it to be. And most people's voices are out of shape. Okay. I've talked about the idea of there being people who love to go around and sing. And for many of them, their voice is in better shape. But it's still not the same as having like a professional workout, which is vocal warm-ups at least 3 times a week. Being out performing is very demanding on the singing voice. And all of this is like a sport, right? You're getting it in shape by doing these things, and you can fall out of shape as well. So one of the first factors that you're dealing with, if your voice isn't as full, or if you feel like it's, half a voice here, it might not be psychologically that you're holding back. It could literally also be that technically your diaphragm is out of shape and your singing apparatus is out of shape, your body's out of shape, because you actually need a pretty strong core for singing. Now, this doesn't equate to being thin or, overweight. As many people have seen, there's some incredible opera singers in particular whose voices are just about as full as a voice can be in our modern society right now. The ability to bring the volume and the power that opera singers, it's to be revered, whether or not it's a style that you like or not. And for many of them, the interesting thing is that like a very large woman, and I've seen this many times, can actually, or a large man, can produce a larger sound. So what's going on there exactly? I don't know. But what I will say is most likely their diaphragm is very well in shape. And the diaphragm is this muscle that's snug up underneath our lungs, if you don't know, and it's what is used to push the air out of the lungs. So you're getting the velocity that you need of the airspeed to go over your vocal cords, all really from your diaphragm. Okay. So this is why when we do breathing for singers, we talk about breathing all the way into the bottom of the lungs, which pushes the diaphragm down and out. And that's why you'll see singers work with their hands on their bellies, because that's showing us that we're not doing shallow breathing and only doing the top of our lungs. The other thing I want to just say very quickly is that this is not yogic breathing. If you're doing yogic breathing, then you probably have some facility in this, but there's some things that need to be different. And one of them is that your mouth and nose need to be open, because you want to get as much air in as you can, as fast as you can. And if you're doing it absolutely correctly, which few of us do it all the time absolutely correctly, but this is the absolute correct form. See how you just heard me breathe? Well, that meant there was a little bit of a tension in my throat. There was some amount of my throat that was kind of closed. And in reality, you want gulping breath where that throat is completely open and relaxed. Okay, so those are the 2 main points of reference. Your diaphragm is in shape and able to push up after it goes down and out. It can push that air out for you at whatever velocity you want, as well as slow as you want, right? It can control it. And that's where a lot of your true sound is coming from. And the other important aspect is how relaxed your throat is. Because if your throat, here's the thing, if your diaphragm isn't pushing that air out fast enough for you, either because you don't know how to do it or it's out of shape, then your throat will take over for you, especially for the high notes where it needs more velocity, right? The wavelengths are shorter and it needs to go much faster. And because of that, the throat will take over and it will like pinch like a balloon when you blow up a balloon and then you let out the air and you pull, and that makes a higher pitch, like that. Your throat will do that automatically for you if you are not in control of your diaphragm. So that's why people will call it the power center. But The thing I want to add here that I personally have looked into, and in my personal philosophy on this, is that the diaphragm is half voluntary, half involuntary. In some ways, you have to just, work with it consciously, but also recognizing that it's also subconscious. And what it's driven by is to express. Because when we were babies, that diaphragm and how loudly you could cry made the difference of whether or not you got your needs met. So it was highly connected to the passion of your emotion and what you were trying to express. So this is why for me, the diaphragm, if you're only going to try to get and work with technique, you're only going to get so far with it. But when you actually pick music that you truly want to express and truly connects them with your emotions, now it's amazing, but your diaphragm will actually come online automatically, and you'll get to actually really see where your diaphragm is at. And there's exercises to get it stronger, and singing in general will get it stronger. But this is why I think it's so important to pick music that it's not fake. It can't be a fake connection. Okay, it can't be like, from your brain, like, I like the idea of doing this and I want to express this. No, you have to really be able, just like an actress, to tune in your emotions. And when you can, and it's truly something you want to express, your diaphragm will show up. And it's incredible. Sometimes that makes the difference. When somebody's voice is a half voice versus a full voice, part of that is that they were thinking too much about technique. They could have gotten on stage or gotten in a voice lesson and the teacher's thrown too many techniques at them, and they're thinking too much about the technique. And when they do that, the diaphragm is not actually functioning because you're not trying to express anything anymore. But when you go back over to remembering the message of the song or what you're trying to say, or maybe there's someone in the audience you're singing to, suddenly you'd be amazed, like, oh my God, was that even me? And those are the great experiences that I want to inspire, is when your voice surprises you and you absolutely almost feel like a witness to it, like it's just coming out of you, and it's so enjoyable, and it's this profound sense of well-being and satisfaction, and you don't even know where it's coming from. Now, I'll be honest with you, like a big goal of being a professional musician is, how do you get that consistently? How do you recreate that consistently? But even then, I think for many, many great musicians, it can be elusive. I remember hearing like Pat Metheny talking about how it's almost like chasing a dragon, where there's those nights where everything comes together in the music and it's just pure joy. And then there's a lot of other nights where you're slugging it out. So I think the same is true with the voice. And I think it kind of relates back to the full circle moment too, that most days a music practice and a spiritual practice, it just takes us having the discipline to keep our mind focused, not getting lost in the weeds of our own insecurities and our own bad thoughts, or being too consumed about what other people are thinking, right? Like, we keep our eye on the prize and we do the work. We do the daily work. We're vigilant to stay focused. And then those moments come and we get to experience that. And maybe the truth is that that can become really consistent. I can't witness to that just yet. I can say that the more that I was out singing and the more that I practiced, that I was able to, my voice was in such good shape, and I was able to truly sing and express in such a satisfying way a lot of the time. But then there was a lot of times when things just didn't line up with my voice, or I had an opportunity that I completely botched. So that's why I'm in a position right now to be facing this again for myself, and the idea of holding back and recognizing that there is still a certain level of that. I'm not as afraid with my voice. I've been able to take the risk over and over again and really get to a place where it doesn't bother me if I botch an opportunity or not. It's just showing up. But I'm also recognizing that I'm being called to expand that to what I talk about, and that there was still a level of holding back in the sense of not hiding behind music a little bit, hiding behind the symbolism of my voice, singing, hiding behind the symbolism of art. And that's still one of the main places that I want to express, because there's so much that I want to express that I really have a hard time putting into words only. Speaking, conversations, that's always been very limiting to me. But that being said, it's still a calling. I still feel that it's part of this holistic journey of returning to who I truly am, and to using my voice at times to stand up for things and to share my opinion more, because so often in those days I really just wanted to offer music to people, and it was a fear that if I shared too much of my own personal beliefs, that it would cloud the message of music is for everyone. It doesn't matter what you think. But in